So, we've got a number 1 deluxe meal. Is there anything else I can get you?
Yeah, I'd also like a good night's sleep. Maybe something like the I didn't struggle all night with my uncomfortable CPAP mask.
Sir, I think what you're looking for is Inspire. It's an implant that works inside your body to treat sleep apnea without a CPAP.
Come on!
He sounds hangry. Inspire, sleep apnea innovation. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you, and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
The Shark Deck.
Happy July 4th. Tom Segura's got a new special for you on Netflix. Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Segura says he has no patience for comedians who pull punches out of fear for being attacked online. He said, that backlash stuff is not real. It's not true. The time you get into the deeper stuff is when you, the comedian, decide to engage in the backlash. Guess what? It all goes away. His new special, Sledgehammer, out today, recorded in November. He jokes about parenting his 2 young boys, calling them like raising wild donkeys, getting his mom high for the first time on gummies, and his admiration for Brad Pitt. This is interesting. They shot 4 different performances in Phoenix. They thought they'd cut it together and make a perfect special, but they ended up using just 1 show, and that was the first performance. Segura said it was such a crazy, energetic, fun environment. He's got more specials coming out on Netflix. The next one will shoot late 2025 at the earliest, though, so enjoy this one. Tom is also building out YMH Studios. They're working on some movies. One of the movies, Fat Astronauts, a comedy in development, scripted by Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer. Fat Astronauts centers on 2 bros who live a debauched lifestyle on a moon colony and decide they never want to come back to Earth. Gee, who would you cast as 2 fat astronauts in a movie written by Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer and they're partying on the moon? We'll see. Unfortunately, there's that pesky writer's strike. Segura says you're trying to do as much as you can without going into a coma. As a company, it's fun to try new things. He talked about his podcast. Podcast advertising has slowed down, but he's confident it will rebound. Tom said, what has happened over the last year is not that unusual in business. You have an economy that's been slowing down continuously for a while, and that always affects marketing and ad dollars. It's cyclical. This kind of thing doesn't stay this way forever. I feel like the recovery has begun. He says when he or his wife, Christina P., are on the road producing their Your Mom's House podcast can be challenging. What we end up doing is going into hyper mode for several weeks to record and produce a big batch of episodes. I don't want to compare it to real working people, but it ends up sucking the life out of you. If you do 8 episodes in 1 week, it's a lot. It's not our preference. The Sydney Morning Herald asked Fortune Feemster 7 questions. Let's see what they are. Question number 1, worst habit? Fortune said, I don't always pay attention to details. Someone will tell me something and I'll shake my head and then 3 minutes later I'm like, wait, what did you want me to do? That sounds like me. Second, greatest fear? She says, I think as a performer, you always worry that work will just end, so we all bust our butts thinking things won't last. What line stayed with you? Her line, put the paws of fear upon your chest. Only love can soothe that beast, and my words are paper tigers, no match for the predators of pain inside her. What's that from, John? That's from the Indigo Girls, Love Will Come to You. Fortune's biggest regret, I couldn't have changed this, but I wish my grandmother had been able to see me grow up beyond high school. She never got to see me perform or be out. Fortune's favorite room is her office. It's sort of my safe space and where I create. What art or song does she wish was hers? Basically any Adele song, and if she could solve one thing, world peace. Kevin Hart was on Jay Shetty's podcast, and Kevin answered the question, what's the biggest drug in life? Kevin said, the biggest drug, it's not cocaine, it's not heroin, it's not Molly or opioids. The biggest drug is fame. And the reason why it's the biggest drug, it makes you feel like you're powerful, and like everywhere you go, anything you want, everything you want. Nobody prepares you for the world of fame. Kevin also talked about his near-fatal car accident. He said, I really almost died. The incident shaped his stance on fame, allowing him to sort his priorities out and get his responsibilities in order. Kevin said, I didn't even have everything dialed up if something were to happen. I'm out here, I'm just roaming, I'm out here aimlessly living, I'm moving so fast. I've yet to grasp the true concept and reality of responsibility. The event enabled him to prioritize his family alongside work, while the responsibility of balancing the need for work and spending time with his loved ones has led to several contradictions. He still tries his best to change every day. Kevin said, I believe in God. I'm not as spiritual as some may be, but very thankful for the life God has allowed me to live and the opportunities that I've been able to embark upon. But I've got a lot more appreciation after life was almost gone.
Do you love your Peloton?
Oh, I sure do.
Well, I know you do because you started a podcast about one. If you love your Peloton and can't get enough of it and all the news that goes along with it, you should check out our show. It's called The Clip Out. It's a great place to go for instructor news, new classes, motivational tips, corporate machination.
We don't just tell you the news, we also give you our thoughts on why things are happening. And each week we also interview a member of the Peloton community. Sometimes it's, somebody like me, just a regular person riding their bike.
Sometimes it's Snooki.
You never know.
You never know.
The Clip Out is about anyone who loves their Peloton.
Every week we take you behind the scenes and inside the world of Peloton. The Clip Out is available wherever you get your podcasts or check out our website,
theclipout.com.
Jocelyn Chia wrote an editorial for Newsweek under the title, "I Was Canceled for a Joke." Jocelyn is the comedian that made a joke about the Malaysian flight. Jocelyn writes, "I first saw someone sharing my clip in an Instagram story. The words were in Malay, which I didn't understand, but ended with a wow. Funnily enough, thinking it was a compliment, I reposted the story. However, as negative story shares and comments rapidly piled up, I soon realized that the wow had not been meant as a compliment. I knew what I had to do. I'm not like some comedians who could just ignore and block nasty comments. I used to be a lawyer, and in the face of verbal attack, the lawyer in me will rear her argumentative head and engage in battle. With this kind of massive onslaught, however, engagement would have been both futile and emotionally destroying. Instead, it was time to play defense. I switched the setting of my social media to limit the comments and the messages I could get. I deactivated the 2 platforms I was barely active on. Why give the haters extra places for their bile? I turned on an autoresponder for the email address that I was getting unwanted emails on and paused the inbox. I blocked all calls from a Malaysian number. I turned off Google alerts for my name and did not read anything being written about me. That night, I barely slept and woke up the next day to frantic-sounding messages from the Comedy Cellar. I was informed that due to the review bombs they were getting, which eventually amounted to 4,000 one-star reviews, they had taken down the video. They requested that I take the video down too, which had their logo on it, and sent me a video without their logo that I could post if I wish. The Comedy Cellar backed down. I was in this all alone against an angry nation of 33 million people. By Thursday, the Singapore foreign minister had apologized to Malaysia for my joke. The harassment also intensified. Multiple attempts were made to hack my socials. My personal information was exposed. The Comedy Cellar website was hacked, and every venue I'd ever worked at was review bombed and threatened with strong-arming them into not working with me. IBM called to cancel me for a series of broadcasts I had done for their American and European offices every quarter for the past 2 years because their Malaysian office was unhappy with my joke. A New York comedy club told me I could no longer be on a show I was previously booked for. A full-on war was being waged against my mental health and livelihood. People advised me to just apologize, saying, Dave Chappelle can afford to not apologize. You can't. Jocelyn writes, Chris Rock took a punch. Dave Chappelle was attacked. Hassan Minhaj received an anthrax scare. Singaporean comedians had faced condemnations and calls for their arrest by Malaysians. A Malaysian comedian was arrested and is going to be standing trial over a joke. And the list goes on. Even though I was just one person, I still wanted to take a stand for myself, my art, my fellow comedians, and for the freedom of speech, especially in a comedic context with no malice involved. So I chose to repost the video. I wanted to send my haters the message I was not going to be bullied into backing down. I also posted humorous stories about my situation to let them know there's one thing they can't cancel, my sense of humor. Wow. And here's a July 4th-y kind of thing from the Gazette. Comedian Bob Hope visited Cedar Rapids 3 times. I don't know why they randomly did this. I don't know if there's some sort of anniversary or something going on there. I'm a big Bob Hope fan. I know a lot of people judge Bob by his NBC comedy specials he did when he was 80 plus years old and Bob lived to be 100. Don't underestimate the young Bob Hope. The radio shows are classic. He had such great timing. The USO shows, I'm sure, meant a lot to a lot of people. Was he a flawed man? Absolutely, but one of the top entertainers of the 20th century. Anyway, the Gazette writes, performances range from a vaudeville program in 1929 to sold-out shows at 5 Season Center 50 years later. Bob Hope performed in Cedar Rapids 3 times during his career. His first visit to Cedar Rapids, he was 26 and still mostly performing theater. He was included in a 1929 Father's Day vaudeville program at the Iowa Theater. The Gazette reported Bob Hope has some entertaining song and talk numbers that made it a hit. No mention of the comedy. Interesting. Second trip to Cedar Rapids was 20 years later. Bob had made the jump from theater into film and TV. He had been doing the USO shows. He was accompanied by Marilyn Maxwell, his co-star in the film The Lemon Drop Kid. Hope and Maxwell arrived at the Cedar Rapids airport on a flight from Omaha on a Saturday afternoon. About 300 people there were to get a glimpse of the stars. Maxwell preceded Hope off the plane and broke on a wide grin. A banner greeted the new arrival saying, Welcome Marilyn Maxwell, and above that in smaller letters, Bob Hope End. They headed out to the Cedar Rapids Country Club. They played 9 holes of golf. Bob shot a 40 on a par 35. Maxwell was a novice who shot 10 on the first hole. After that, nobody counted her strokes. She asked Bob about her stance and said, "Is this right, Bob?" And Bob said, "That's it. At least that's what they told me. It only cost me $8,000. Bob came back in September of 1979. He was 76 years old then. A sold-out crowd of more than 4,000 watched his show at the Five Seasons Center. He said, "It's nice to be in Cedar Rapids. This is a beautiful garage." It was the same joke he had told 3 decades before. He did some local humor, saying Cedar Rapids is such a clean town. It doesn't have any slums. To spice things up, a hobo comes across from Waterloo once in a while. He made fun of President Jimmy Carter, saying, "I don't know why people pick on Carter. Hell, he hasn't done anything." When the show was over, Bob hopped into his 1935 Rolls Royce, headed to the airport. His private plane took him to his next stop. Enjoy the fireworks. That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow.